Do not bow down. Do not subjugate yourself. Do not declare yourself to be filthy and wretched and corrupt. These things are an abomination in her sight. Rather, stand upright, not like an alpha, not like a chimp, but stand upright and be upright in your treatment of other people, and especially her people who are suffering. And the world is going to change, and your life most certainly, even if we can't change the world, your life most certainly will change for the better. Okay, so as previously and as always, I am not a priest. But I am going to tell you tonight at least one important thing that priests will not tell you, even though they should. So let's see how we go. What I wanted to talk about tonight is the tendency of patriarchal or masculinist religion to want to make men, especially, bow down, to adopt an attitude of subservience, a servile position, to be the slave even perhaps of these gods, or in the Christian way of doing it, they declare you to be filthy and wretched and corrupt and full of the stain of original sin, needing this saviour to come and cleanse you of these things, that you're hopeless and wretched without this saviour. These kinds of claims, these kinds of directions, these kinds of spiritual practices are an abomination in her sight. They are a terrible wrong that is being worked against her men in particular, and a terrible wrong worked against her men that then corrupt them in turn and turn them into sadistic overlords who try to make women in turn submit, to bow down, to take a subservient position. All of this is a complete abomination in her sight, and she does not authorize any of it. And I'm going to direct this next little bit to men in particular. Those are my instructions. That's what I'm going to do. Men, you should not bow down to anything. You should not adopt a servile or a subservient position. You shouldn't abase yourself. You shouldn't engage in all of these spiritual practices that require you to kneel or to bow or to prostrate yourself. What you should do is stand upright upon the earth, and your authority to be upright upon the earth derives directly from her. She made you from the clay, as the expression goes. She literally brought you into existence. She delights in you. She loves you. And what she wants you to do is to stand upright on the earth and not bow to any jinn or devil or prophet or demigod or saviour, any kind of demon such as that, but rather to stand upright upon the earth, to join yourself in unity with your brothers, and to love, care for, protect, redeem her people out of their suffering. Stand up, upright upon the earth, and love her people. Bring her love, pour her love into the world. Now, when I say stand up, I'm not on some kind of Jordan Peterson jaunt, not any of this, oh yes, you've got to stand straight and throw your shoulders back and puff your chest out. You're an alpha, you're all sorts of, yes, you've got to be a monster, and if you then restrain yourself. No, this is just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. This is not being an alpha or being some kind of a great monster. This is being a chimp. This is being a gorilla or some kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't even say bonobo, because even they don't do that. They're more developed than that. No, it's not about puffing your chest out and being this alpha man. There's no such thing as an alpha or a beta or a sigma or any of these things. There's simply a man. And what a man does is that if he's wise enough or he's heard the good news, he consecrates himself to her, but she doesn't even bother about that. She's not even particularly worried about that. He stands upright, he joins in unity with his brothers, and he does good works in the world. He brings her love into the world. That's what a man is. Forget alpha, beta, sigma, forget high net worth individuals or all this rubbish that is so fashionable to talk about these days. You are either a man standing upright, doing the right thing, helping, loving, giving, supporting, protecting, or you are some kind, well, either a chimp who's strutting around, I'm the top G, I'm the alpha male, utter nonsense. But that's one type of way not to be a man. And the other way to not be a man is to engage in one of these disgraceful patriarchal religions that make men kneel, that make men bow, that subject men to the dominion of spirits and imps and devils, jinns, all kinds of things that come into the world and want to make men bow down, breaking her heart with every man who succumbs to that temptation. One thing that you must have noticed as well is that in terms of this lust to have men kneel, to have them abnegate themselves, to have them bow down, there's a very strong strain of a desire to sexually subjugate and sexually humiliate these men. You can see it when you look at Islam, for example. You look at these men bowing down in prayer. They've got their heads down and they're sort of prostrating themselves and they're bowing. They've got their asses waving around in the air in a gesture of sexual submission. You must have seen it. If you haven't seen it, go and have a look and say, oh, gosh. Oh, I see what he's doing there. And in the Catholic tradition, my own tradition, the same thing applied. So you would see those communion rails, and people would go up to the communion rail and kneel down, kind of at crotch height of this priest who was walking along, and literally open their mouths and stick their tongues out and wait for this man to come along and put this little white blob on their tongue. When you see it, it's absolutely appalling. Now, both of these things, this kneeling sexual submission, this asses waving in the air, this is all the language of, and you can't say this word with a P these days. Apparently, that'll get your video taken down. They call it corn. It is the language of corn, the visual language of corn. You have a look at it. These are tropes in pornographic material. This one over here and this one over here. It's continued in this bizarre fetish for chopping the tops off little babies' penises. This is just astonishing. And you say, why? Or, female circumcision, that ghastly crime against humanity every single time it's done. And you ask yourself why. But again, it's part of this bizarre need not just to subjugate and to humiliate men, but to humiliate them and subjugate them sexually. Because sexuality is this incredibly powerful force in people, and it has an incredible potential to cause intimacy, love, reconciliation, bonding between two people. It is an incredibly powerful force. And if we were free in our sexuality, free to express it fully, free to express it in a healthy way, free to express it in the context of loving relationships without all of this sexual perversion that's put into us by these religions, just that fact would be enough, I think, to redeem the world. And I mean in a very literal sense. But instead what we have is this not only subjugation of men so that they in turn subjugate women to themselves and subjugate other people, but we have this very, very specific effort to distort and pervert the sexuality and even the genitals of faithful people so that sexuality becomes all kinds of messed up. Again, all of these things are an abomination in her sight. She rails against every single attempt to do it. And when you think about the number of men, for example, in Islam, who are bowing down and subjugating themselves to this terrible, ghastly force every single day. 500 million men, perhaps more. Can you imagine the horror and the heartbreak that she suffers every time she witnesses this? 5 times a day. These jinns are laughing in her face. Can you imagine 2 billion Christians proclaiming that they are filthy and wretched and corrupt, that they should hold their flesh in dishonor and contempt? And I am quoting from theologians and sources here. This is actually what they say. It sounds unbelievable, but go and read it. It's all there, plain to see. But can you imagine when these people, men especially, are declaring themselves to be filthy, wretched, and corrupt? Their flesh is filthy and wretched. The only thing they can do is bow down to this demigod and savior to possibly save them from all of these terrible, terrible things. Again, her heart is broken even by one person doing it. When 2 billion people are doing it, can you imagine? Can you imagine the horror that she feels? And this is why this world is, from a spiritual point of view, so desolate, so full of pain, so full of suffering, so full of horror, that just goes on and on and on and never seems to be remediated. It's partly because the heart of this goddess is bleeding with all of these horrible things that have been her people have been subjected to. One of the things that I did want to say today, and again, I'm going to address men on this one. I often hear men saying things like they don't feel like they have a place, they don't know where they belong, they don't know what their purpose is, they don't know where to go. Should I stay here? Should I go somewhere else? Is the grass greener? And I have suffered through my life really very intensely from these kinds of feelings. But when you genuinely appreciate who she is and what your relationship with her is. I mean, again, she made you from the clay. She literally created you out of nothing, and she loves you. When you understand that, then if you ask me, Pete, where is my place in this world? Where do I belong? I feel like I have no home. I would say again, man, stand up. Just stand up. No need to throw your chest back or be a chimp. Just stand up. Look down at your feet where your feet are standing. And probably even better, go outside. Make sure you're actually out of doors. Look down at where your feet are standing. That is your home. You are home. Right there. Go 100 yards in that direction. Stand there and look down. That is your home. Right there. That is where you are. Go 100 miles, 1,000 miles in that direction. Stand there. Look down. You are home. This is where you belong. You were made to be here. And you have absolute authority to stand upon this earth because it derives directly from her. She made you here. She loves to see you here. She's given this place to you and to other people of good heart, righteous people who know her ways. As long as you are on this planet, it is impossible to be anywhere but right at home. You belong right where you are. And if somebody has taken that away, if somebody has enclosed that piece of land, let's say, oh, that is mine, you can't be on here, that's mine. They are usurpers. They are thieves. They are murderers. And by theft and murder, they have taken the land. And everywhere the walls spring up at their command, as the Billy Bragg song goes. It's a really good song. I'm going to put it in the description, the Diggers Revolt. But hopefully that gives you some kind of relief. You are home. No matter where you are, where you're standing, that is your home. You have every right to be here. And it's these jinns and demons and devils and whatever else it is that has kind of caused these churches to arise that want men to bow down and be subservient. These are the pretenders. These are the imposters. They should be cast out. So I guess that's the main message. Do not bow down. Do not bow down. If you knew how pathetic the little imp or the little jinn or the little trickster spirit that whispered to Muhammad in that cave is, if you knew how pathetic and lowly that little thing is, or the little trickster spirit that started the bush burning, appeared as the risen Christ, that appeared to Paul on the road to Damascus, if you knew how pathetic and lowly and there's not even evil, it's just a little tricksy sprite. That's all it is, that has come into these religions and just laughs the whole time because they've made these magnificent creatures, men and women, bow down to them in vast numbers and almost destroyed the earth. I think that they might be a bit blind and a bit stupid. They don't really know what the consequences of what they're doing are. They just like to mess with people, and they're messing with the whole world at the moment. If you knew how pathetic these little jinns were, you wouldn't have any reluctance at all to say what I am saying and just say, no, you're cast out. I'm not going to bow down. And if you want to prove it to yourself, here's a really good way to prove it. So Islam says, well, you must subjugate yourself 5 times every single day, the arse waving in the air. You've got to do this 5 times a day. That's the only way that Allah will be pleased. Well, the way to test that is to have the audacity and the courage to stand upright upon the earth and say, make me. If you are so powerful and so wonderful and so strong, make me bow down. Make me get down on my knees. Make me do it 5 times a day. Just stand up and just say, right, just do it. Come on, make me. These jinns are so pathetic. And the same thing in the Catholic Church as well. Make me declare my flesh to be dishonorable and contemptuous. Make me declare myself to be full of filthiness and sin. Absolutely nothing will happen. These jinns cannot even cause one decent man to bow down. And in fact, once you do this and you say, yeah, it doesn't seem like anything has actually happened, then you might actually have the courage to come into you to stand upright and say, no, I do not bow for any filthy little trickster imp, any little trickster god that might come into the world. My instructions to be upright, or my authority to be upright, derives entirely from her and directly from her. She put me here. I belong here. You don't. Get the hell out. And basically, that is the project that we have to be engaged in. We have to cast out these filthy little tricksters who have taken so much power to themselves. Their time is at an end. And when you see how little power they actually have, that it's only in the minds of men who get tricked into believing that they're very powerful. The best example, The Wizard of Oz is a story about these gods. So, the great and wonderful Oz, the great and wonderful Oz. And Terence McKenna does a great little thing. I'm probably not going to get it right. But, he says when they come in there, they start hearing this, ignore the little man with the levers. Ignore the little man with the levers. Don't look behind the curtain. Ignore the little man with the levers. And that's all he is, a little man with these levers. And when you see how pathetic and disempowered these jinns are, yeah, that's really the end of the story. So just to get back, I'm going to finish. I think I've said enough. I could go on all night about this. I know it's just this one thing, but there are billions and billions of people who are subjugated to these spirits, and it just seems outrageous that it ever could have happened, that it could have held the earth in its thrall for so long. But for some reason, this is now the time. It's just gonna end. But what I would say to men, again, I'll direct this to men. These are my instructions again. Try it. Try standing upright on the earth and just daring any spirit to put you down, and they just won't be able to. All by yourself, you are more powerful than any of these things. And then I would ask you sincerely, consider dedicating your life to her, dedicating your strength and your heart and your abilities, anything you brought into the world, dedicate to her. And then, again, standing upright on the earth, begin to pour her love into the world. Looking after the poor, the downtrodden, looking after the sick, the hungry, and believe me, in this world, so infested with jinns as it is, it's a shit show. It's absolutely horrible. There's plenty of suffering to alleviate. Just try it. Just say, I'm dedicating myself to her. But even that, honestly, I keep saying it, she doesn't really care. You can dedicate yourself to anything that you like. She really doesn't mind, as long as you will stand upright in the earth, not bow to any of these masculine religions, and just pour her love into the world, look after other people, be protective of people, retrieve them out of their suffering, be an upright man. And so you know where you live and where your home is. It's right where you are right now. That's where your home is, and it doesn't change. No, whatever direction you go, unless you get off the planet, that's where your home is. And what is your role? Your role is to look after, to retrieve out of their suffering, to take care of, to do whatever you can to work for and to help her people. And honestly, if you do those two things, not only will you be perfectly fine, but when you start to feel her love and her admiration come into you with every step that you take towards righteousness and towards doing her work in the world, you'll wonder why you ever bothered with any other kind of spirituality. And like I say, she really doesn't care. You don't even have to bother about her. Do the work, stand upright, do the work, and her love and affection, admiration, and even, frankly, desire, you'll start to feel it, and you'll never, ever look back. And the final thing I'd say is, I do not know, I keep saying it, why I am dressed in this stupid costume, why I am jibber-jabbering to you down the camera. I think that the situation is so terrible and the deception is so complete that she needs me to keep talking until at least a few people listen. The books that I've spoken of in previous videos, they might help you, give you some inspiration, show you what love looks like, maybe make you want to do it in the world. But yeah, that's basically it. I think I'm just going to wind it up there. I wish it were different. I really wish it were different, but my instructions are keep talking until somebody listens. And maybe the final thing I'll say is, I just had this idea. I've talked about maybe trying to recruit this one man, this natural leader of men who can bring men in behind him. That'd be ideal. That'd be fantastic. But if I can't find that man, all I need 10 men. I just need 10 men. I don't need whole armies. I just need 10. Because the love that would come into the communion between those 10 men, the power that she would be able to exercise through those 10 men would be enough of its own accord to completely transform the world and completely cast out these jinns and devils and demons. So I hope it doesn't take too long, but I guess I have to just accept the instructions. You've got to keep talking this talk until at least, let's say, 10 people listen. That's all I'm going to need. And honestly, even if I don't get those 10, maybe one would be enough. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Do not bow down. Do not subjugate yourself. Do not declare yourself to be filthy and wretched and corrupt. These things are an abomination in her sight. Rather, stand upright, not like an alpha, not like a chimp, but stand upright and be upright in your treatment of other people, and especially her people who are suffering. And the world is going to change, and your life most certainly, even if we can't change the world, your life most certainly will change for the better. Because she loves you, she made you from the clay. That's all you need to know. All right, thank you very much.